Well, it's 8 o'clock now. I'm gonna start talking about the listening test with some tips for the CAE exam. Okay, let's start with the next slide. I'm gonna give you some really few tips. Okay, well, there are some things students and candidates should always pay attention to when they want to sit the exam. One first advice I give is concerning accents. Many times the students, people, they get used to hearing their English teachers and some close friends, and this is not enough because we have lots of variety of accents all over the world. And although the CE exam focus more on the British accent, there is a tendency of having more accents in the listening activities, right? So this is the first advice that I give you. Sometimes the students get used to hearing their English teacher and think their listening skills are really good. But then comes the exam and accents from all around Britain, America, New Zealand, and all other countries appear. And so suddenly it's not so easy as students think. So avoid this problem by listening to English in all kinds of accents. Where can you do this? By listening to movies, by watching TV shows, by listening to podcasts, audiobooks, everything that you can. You've got to get accustomed to listening to a variety of accents all over that come from all over the world. The next thing is that you have to practice predicting what's going to come before you listen. So you've got to get used to predicting the answers. How can you do that? By reading the question and by underlining the keywords. And then you've got to think what is the most likely answer depending on what is written there. Okay, basically the keywords. It doesn't matter if you're right or not. So just predicting the answer helps you tune in to the recording. You've got to anticipate what's going to come. Then you've got to get worried about time management. You may think that time management is not important when you do the listening test, but it's really important. So I totally disagree. So why is it important to get accustomed, to get prepared for the CA exam? Because by doing lots of papers, by doing lots of samples, you will know what's recorded. So you don't need to pay attention to the recording because you already know. I mean, what kind of recording am I talking about? I'm talking about the introduction that they always give before each part of the listening exam. So once you already know what's going to come, what they're going to say in the introduction, because the introduction is always the same to each part of the listening exam. And as you already know, you can get started before the other students that do not have this practice. So as soon as you were allowed to open the test paper, turn to the first section, and you start underlining keywords in the questions. When you were doing this, you were listening the questions, you were reading the questions while the recording is being played. So the other students will be listening to this exact part. This is the Cambridge English Advanced Listening Test. I'm going to give you the instructions for this test. I'll introduce each part of the test and give you time to look at the questions. At the start of each piece, you will hear this sound. Beep. You hear each piece twice. Remember, while you're listening, write your answers on the question paper. You have 5 minutes at the end of the test to copy your answers onto the separate answer sheet. Ask any questions now because you must not speak during the test. So there is a pause, and then you can open your paper and look at part 1. So before part 1, there will also be another introduction to the listening test. So that's always the same. And the recording gives you some seconds before you start listening to the real extract, okay, to the exam extract. But you will already have had the advantage of underlining the keywords once you are allowed to open the test paper. So that's always the same. So now that you know what the speaker will say, you don't need to listen. Now, not only that, the speaker introduces each section, as I said before, and gives you a short time to read the questions. Anyone who was listening to the speaker will have 15 seconds to read questions 1 and 2, but you have probably read all 6 questions and thought about what the most likely answers are. So you have some 15 seconds advantage. What are the distractors? Cambridge uses lots of distractors to lead the weaker candidates, the weaker students, in the wrong direction. If you underline a keyword in the answer, you hear that, and you hear that exact word in the recording. That word is not probably the answer, so probably that's not the answer. For example, watch out for answers like, the man lives in China. This may be one of the options when the speaker says, I used to live in China, or I always wanted to live in China. So you've got to pay attention to how the sentence is said in the listening extract, because the options, if you do not pay attention, you will have very similar words, very similar constructions. I mean, the same verb conjugated in different forms, and you've got to know what was really said. So attention, focus is really important, because there will be lots of distractors. Sorry for the dog barking here, so he may be being disturbed by someone. Sorry. Well, of course, everybody learns from mistakes. So one of the best ways to improve and to learn about distractors is to read the transcript. While you were getting ready to sit the exam, whenever you do a listening practice, it's important that you, at the end, after checking the answers, you listen to it again as many times as possible and read the transcript at the same time. So in my view, in my experience, the students never do this. In fact, I have many students that sit the CAE, and they usually do not do that. And they do worse, which is something that I will say later. So this is nice while you are doing your practice, because you will not only learn how to focus, you will also get to know some new vocabulary. You're going to learn some vocabulary and also practice, reinforce the grammar you have been studying. So it's important that you will see, while you read the transcript, that what the traps Cambridge used were. So you will not fall into them anymore. You'll get accustomed. You will see how they do that. So practice for the CE by doing lots of listening samples. It's really important. It's really good, because you will know how not to get or to fall into the traps Cambridge has or offers. Challenge your ideas. Common mistakes students make is to choose the answers, the answer after the first listening, and they stick to that answer. Okay, they imagine they have understood what has been said. And in fact, it's important to listen to the second recording again, because when you listen to it the second time, you will probably pay attention to a detail that you didn't have paid attention to before. So you must be open-minded to the possibility that you have fallen into a trap before. So why there are 2 recordings? Why do you have to hear the recordings twice? I'm sorry. That's the reason, okay? Because many times, even when we speak Portuguese, when we don't understand something, we think that we understood something in a way, but we ask the person to repeat, and then okay, That's it. So even in Portuguese, we can't imagine that because it is English, you have to understand it first time. It's it. Well, let's have one example here. We have an example, a practice. I got this from one book. I just don't. I forgot to write the title of the book here, but I can give it to you later. This, in fact, is going to be one of the books I'm going to use during my my course, Listening C practice. Okay, so we have here, you're going to hear part of a radio phone-in program. What is a phone-in program? It's a program where people call the radio in order to give their opinion or answer questions about a certain topic. So one of the things to help you, of course, the listening test, it's not going to be this way. Here it's one kind of exercise that will guide you to details, right? So before you listen, look at the photos. What do you think the topic of the phone-in is? You have 3 pictures. What do you imagine it is? All right. So we can see a guy looking at the watch. We can see a traffic jam. And we can see a girl, a woman, using a notebook, a laptop. Well, first thing that we think of, it's concerning work. It seems to be concerning work. And then we have a listening activity. Listen and check whether. Okay, remember that whether, that's a word that people usually have a problem with. Whether is not a condition. It indicates alternatives to possibilities, more than one, more than two or more possibilities. So listen and check whether you were right or not. Whenever you see the word whether, it's because there is an or thing, even if it is not clearly written or said. So as you listen, answer the questions. Let's listen to it.
Unit 1, Recording 2. And our next caller is Karen. Karen, what's your experience of public transport?
Yes, hello Gary. Well, I commuted to London for over 10 years. I caught the train every morning at 7:15 to get to work for 9 o'clock, and I wouldn't get home until about 7 o'clock in the evening. And frankly, it was a terrible period of my life, really stressful, mainly because of the unreliability of the train service. I was forever arriving late for work. One day I was travelling home when the train broke down, and I eventually got back at midnight. Of course, I had to go to work the next day, so off I went for my 7:15 train. I'd been waiting over an hour when they announced that the train was cancelled. That really was the end for me. I arranged with my employer to work at home, and I've been working at home happily for the last 5 years. Of course, it meant a big salary cut, but I haven't regretted it for a moment.
Thanks for that, Karen. Can you just stay on the line? I'm hoping we've got Liam on the line. Liam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Gary.
Great. And what point do you want to make?
Well, I just wanted to say that my experience is similar to your last caller. Although I'm a newcomer to commuting by public transport, I've just sold my car and now I go to work by bus. I'd owned a car ever since I left college, but I wanted to do my bit to cut down on pollution. But I have to confess that I'm regretting it already. I've arrived late for work twice this week because the bus hasn't turned up on time. It's got so bad that I'm now thinking of buying a motorbike. It'll cause less pollution than a car and be more reliable than public transport.
Well, it sounds like you're another dissatisfied customer, Liam. But we've also got Sahar on the line, and I think she's more positive. Sahar, are you there?
I am, Gary. Good afternoon.
Hello, Sahar. What do you want to tell us?
Well, I'd like to put in a good word for train travel. I'm working at home while our office block is being renovated, and while I'm appreciating being able to get up later than usual, I really miss my daily commute. You get to know the people you travel with every day. I remember one day I dropped my purse while I was getting off the train. Another passenger picked it up, found my address in it, and brought it round to my house later that evening. Another time, I'd been working really hard and went to sleep and missed my station. One of the other passengers was getting off at the next station and she had her car parked there. She woke me up and offered me a lift back to my home. I'd spoken to her only a couple of times before then, but now she's a really good friend. You meet a lot of nice people and become a part of the travelling community.
Thanks, Sahar. That's a side of commuting we don't often hear about. Now, somebody else who sees the good side of train journeys is Luca. Are you there, Luca?
Yes, indeed. Actually, I'm phoning from the train on my way home from work.
And are you having a good journey?
Yes, it's been fine. But then, I love trains. I've enjoyed travelling by train ever since I was young. I admit that it can be frustrating at times. There are delays and cancellations, and there are minor irritations like poor mobile phone reception. I've been trying to phone into your programme for the last half hour, in fact. But I catch the 7:05 at the station near my home every morning and still find there's something quite magical about stepping onto the train. And there are clear advantages over driving, apart from the lack of stress. I reckon that over the years I've saved a huge amount of money by using public transport. I've never really considered buying a car. You can also get a lot of work done. On the train yesterday morning, for example, I'd read a couple of reports and prepared for an important meeting before I even got to work. Admittedly, I'm quite lucky. The train company I travel with have invested a lot of money recently. They've bought new trains and have really improved the service.
Gary?
Karen, were you wanting to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to pick up Luca's point that travelling by train is less stressful than driving. Public transport can be stressful too when trains don't turn up or are delayed. What's less stressful is working at home. At 8 o'clock, I'm usually having a leisurely breakfast when most people are in their cars or on the train. Yesterday, I'd finished all my work by 2:30, so I drove to the local pool for a swim. And today, I've been working hard all day, so now I've got time to relax by listening to the radio for a while. Much better than the stress of commuting.
You're very lucky, Karen. We've got another caller on the line.
Okay, so there should be another playing of the recording, but I'm not gonna do it because this is just a session with some tips. So it's really important that when you listen to it the second time, you pay attention again, very attentively from beginning to end, so that you can really elucidate some of the questions you may have had while you were listening to it the first time. Okay, so after listening to it, one thing that I would ask you to do, and I will ask you to do while you're taking the course with me, is when we have this kind of exercise, you're gonna write your answers on a sheet of paper, on a notebook that you may have with you. There will be other kinds of exercises, of course, online exercises where you're gonna get it on your laptop or on your smartphone or on your tablet. Okay, and this kind of exercise here, it's not, of course, similar to any of the parts of the listening test. This is just to help you focus on details, right? Throughout the course, I'm gonna give you also some real samples of the CE exam so you can get accustomed to the format of the test. Okay, let's see the answers here. The first answer is already given. There is a sample as an example. Lost something on the train one day. Who was a person? Sahar. The one that travels to work by bus is Liam. The one that works at home permanently is Karen. Of course, when you do the course, you're gonna write your answers on your paper, on your notebook, and we're going to check it this way, right? Who may buy a motorbike? That's Liam, who has always liked traveling by train. That was Luca, used to catch the train at a quarter past 7 in the morning was Karen. Who's working at home temporarily? That's Sahar, and has never owned a car. That's Luca. Well, then when you listen to it again, I'm not gonna do this now because of the lack of time. We just have some minutes before we end. When you listen to it again, you've got to pay attention to other parts of the sentences. So I commuted to London for over 10 years. So that was the verb. You know what commuted is, right? When you use a means of transportation to go and come back, usually to work, you use the word commute. I had been waiting over an hour when they announced that the train was cancelled. That was part of the listening practice too. I'm now thinking of buying a motorbike. I'm working at home while office block is being renovated. I had spoken to her only a couple of times before then. I have enjoyed traveling by train ever since I was young. I have been trying to phone into your program for the last half hour, and yesterday I had finished all my work by 2:30 p.m. I'm doing it very fast because of the time we have here, but of course, throughout the course, you're going to do it at your pace. It's not going to be so slow, but it's not going to be so fast. By observing these verbs, you can see that the focus of this unit is not only listening, but also grammar practice, verb tenses. Okay, so in this lesson, you not only practice the listening strategies, but you also reinforce the use of verb tenses, and we end up paying attention to how and why these verb tenses were used in these sentences. This is something that we're going to have throughout the lessons. Then a last part, which is not really listening. Of course, it's not listening. It's part of the reading exam reading paper, is this one, this kind of question. That's one of the most difficult questions for CAE candidates. We're going to have a lot of practice of this kind of question. And now with the new format of the CE exam, we have reading and use of English all together. And this is one example of the use of English question. Okay, and that's it. This is just a presentation with some of the tips for the listening and a little tip concerning the use of English that we're going to have in one of our next presentations for free. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching, for being here. See you next time. Bye-bye.